Well, good evening to our live audience. I want to welcome everybody. We're here. We've already prayed. We've already done our flag salute. We are ready to begin. I'm going to take your attention over here to the screen on the side. This is what we believe. This is who we are. This is our creed of conduct for the 1776 Sons of Liberty. We are sons of liberty. We are lovers of God and country, family, community, and faith. We are warriors of liberty and seekers of truth. We are servants of this great nation and the supreme law of the land. The Constitution is our guide as we fight to restore freedom for every American woman, child, and man. This is who we are. This is what we do. We petition elected officials to be accountable to the people that they represent and not accountable to the organizations that they're in part of. And so it's a real tricky situation, but we are here to be a voice of the people to those elected officials. Part of what we do. The other part, we do a lot of philanthropy throughout our county. We like to raise money and give it to worthy causes that are doing the same thing that I just described. So if you want to be a part of us, we're here every Monday night, 7 p.m., except holidays, and certain times you can follow us on Facebook, which will give you the dates that we are not here. So you don't show up and nobody's here. All right, with no further ado, I want to ask Patty Cassio to come up. A familiar face. I would introduce her more thoroughly, but nobody does it better than her. But she is our field director for the John Birch Society. Many of us are part of that. It's a great organization that we get behind 100%. They help us in a lot of our functions that we do, and we want to be involved as much as we can. Patty, it's all yours. And she will introduce our speaker when she's ready.
Yes, okay, great. Thank you. Yes, so I know many of you, many of here are JBS members. We promote the Constitution, hold our elected officials accountable, and we use scorecards to do so. I'm glad to introduce our speaker tonight. Before I do, I stopped by your winter wonderland in city of Hanford, and I have to say that was amazing. I'm so glad I came early and stopped by to see that. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's amazing. It's magical. There's Christmas trees, there's Santa Claus, there's ice skating rink, there's hot chocolate and churros. So that was amazing. And I enjoyed that. Tonight, I know the speaker, Ellington Smith. He's amazing. I've known him for several years. He has U.S. intel that he can share with you at this time. He also, is very involved with digital currency and converting covert information into usable information. And so he's here to share that with you. And I want to welcome Ellington Smith.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm going to go around.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, thanks for having me. I hope some of you in a group like this, I don't know if this is going to work now. Some of you in a group like this, we have a lot of people that follow things because you are the most informed just because of who you are and what your interest is. So some of this might be a little boring or whatever, but what I'm going to talk about is the weaponization of intelligence and the system behind that, how it evolved, how it was used, how it's being used now, and bring it all up to Venezuela and what's going on inside of Venezuela. So in doing that, I'd like to drop back to 1990 through the year 2010, or 2010. Those 20 years is when the country basically digitized everything. Everything became electronic. You're scanning in insurance documents, scanning in mortgages, financial records, health records. That was happening. And at the same time, you had the internet come about, you had email, you had e-commerce over the web, which was influenced by the American Standards Institute, where they put in a standard called X12 that allowed your itemization of your purchase to go along with the transaction. So, like you go to Costco, you get an itemized list of everything you bought. That actually goes along with the transaction and is stored in a database at Visa, MasterCard, or the bank, plus the company that has it, like Costco. So the other thing you had developed is smartphones, where smartphones had web access, they have cameras, and they have email and text messaging, and the big thing is they have GPS for tracking. So keeping that all in mind, what I'm going to talk about is none of your information is private, absolutely none of it. When you go to open up an account with Verizon or somebody, or even a bank account, they basically say in their description, we will not share your information with anybody except our subsidiaries, partners, and associates. You don't know who those, thank you, you don't know who those partners are. The partners a lot of times is the government, but in the case I'm going to describe, the partner is actually a corporation that controls all government intel, and it's a privately held corporation. Okay, so just keep those things in mind. If we now go back into 9/11, which would be 2011, 9/11, the hit on the towers, they found that the terrorists basically had communication and activity over social media and over email. And so knowing that information, Bush was president then, knowing that information, they hired Google to come in and basically create a situation where they could track and monitor everybody on social media based on what Google already had put in for doing advertising. And the way that works is Google would place a agent on your computer or on your website when you go to, like, Facebook, and it would monitor everything you clicked on. So if you're into phishing and you click on phishing information, it would take and target all the advertising from their sports phishing people and target it for you, so all you get is that. Now, the same thing happens with Alexis. When you're walking, you may not think Alexis is listening to you, but it's listening to you. And it's listening for certain interest words. So all of a sudden, you're talking about taking a trip somewhere, XYZ country. All of a sudden, you start receiving ads for XYZ trip and so forth. So that's kind of what's happening. Now, the software that Google developed was paid for by the Department of Defense. And an interesting thing happened. All of a sudden, the employees, 600 employees inside of Google, rebelled. And there were their top engineers and programmers rebelled against Google because it was let out by a guy named Edward Snowden, if everybody recognizes that name. Edward Snowden was a high-up contractor with the NSA, and he exposed the fact that the Obama administration was spying on citizens. And it was indiscriminate spying. It was looking for activity. If it had a suspicious activity, it would start tracking you and things like that. You had another one, Julian Assange. Julian received classified data, and he posted it on the web. Now, both of those guys broke the law by posting that kind of information, but also they were noting that the government was breaking a law because it's not supposed to spy on its citizens. And so those two guys are now in exile. Snowden's in Russia and Julian Assange in the UK. So what happened is this rebellion, Google decided they had to get out of the contract with the DOD. So what they turned around and did is they had a fellow on the board of directors of Alphabet, which owns Google, and his name was Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel was one of the founders of PayPal. And so they asked Peter to come in and take over the project. Well, Peter was working with a company called Palantir, Palantir, very important. Palantir is considered the most dangerous high-tech company in the world, okay? Where they work now is they had software that they put together that would monitor email and look for people who were not really with a company, let's say like a bank. They were disgruntled employees. They would look for that in emails and search for tracking employees who might be questionable. They expanded that into the banking area because BlackRock, everybody familiar with who BlackRock is? The private equity firm had invested in Palantir, and Palantir then had opened up to them the ability to link into all the insurance companies, all of the banks, all the mortgage companies, and health records. Then in addition to that, they jumped in and linked to all public information on an individual, criminal records, arrest warrants, all of that kind of stuff. And so the justification of what they were doing was they were putting it together to look for fraud and also for money laundering. For the banks, it was money laundering, and they got a contract with U.S. Treasury and all of that. So the DOD was really happy with this. So they turned around and released $11 billion to have them expand that into all of the government agencies. And this took in the CIA, the FBI, the NSA, the Homeland Security, Department of Defense, Health and Welfare, looking for fraud there. So they had all of these links in it. The first system was called Gotham, and the Gotham was the one that the Google employees rebelled about. The second one, which is a maturity of Gotham, is called Maven. And Maven is the one that it's now probably about early 2014, maybe first quarter of 2014. And Obama used Maven to track 192 people. 90 of those were U.S. legislators, all conservative. The others were people of concern that were conservatives. And they used it in tracking those. And the code name for it was Nordic Frost. And so some of you probably heard Glenn Beck or somebody like that talk about Nordic Frost, and this is where it originated in 2014. So now we come forward into the latter part of that, where they begin to add GPS to it. They link to all the phone companies, and with the link on the phone company now, they can individually track a person physically where they're at. And this goes, if you're working just with cell towers and you have the GPS turned off, it does triangulation between the towers to locate you, and it'll probably locate you within 100 yards. The GPS, it'll locate you within probably about 15 feet. So now it's not only generating a folder on you of all your background, all your financial records, all of your transactions. It has access to all of that. They can now point exactly where you are at any one instant in time. Okay? Scary so far? Yeah. We're getting there. So now they call this system Titan, which is called Tactical Intelligence Tracking Analysis Node. Okay? The Titan node, now when Trump, let's back up a little bit, when Biden was in place, they advanced a lot of the development into Titan. When Trump was elected in 2016, he wasn't aware of all of this in a usable way. He didn't know who to trust because all of the people at lower levels and everything were all working for the liberals that were in there, so he didn't know who to trust. But there is an interesting thing. There is a guy named, Russia, the Ukraine, eastern Ukraine, voted to have Russia annex it because of the corruption in the Ukraine. That started the civil war in the Ukraine, and Podolsky, the president of Ukraine, he had an advisor, and the advisor was named Paul Manafort. Okay, now Paul Manafort, when the Civil War broke out, Paul Manafort said, well, I got to get my money out of the country, so I'm going to push it into a Cyprus bank. So he pushed $50 million into a Cyprus bank. He left and he joined the Trump team as political advisor in 2015, okay? So all of a sudden, there's a little group who, since they're monitoring conservatives, decided to monitor him as well, since he's now part of the Trump team. So what they did is they found that he placed $50 million in the Cyprus bank. They charged him with money laundering. He spent 4 years in prison, got out, wrote a nice book about it. And so that's the information he had, though. He's the one that had all the Russian oligarchs by name, address, and everything. And so when Christopher Steele got the award of the contract from Hillary Clinton, he went over, he was British, he went over, got onto the Titan system, and basically created a file and transferred all of the contacts of the Manafort information into what we know as the Steele dossier. So all of those contacts were not Trump's, they were put in physically from the contacts that Paul Manafort had. So now you have the Steele dossier, and the all of the security agencies, the FBI and Brennan, they all knew where that information came from, and they had Fusion GPS do some of the wrap up on some of the financials and everything. And in that process, from there on, they leased 129 indictments against, not indictments, subpoenas against Trump and his organization and his family. So can you imagine fighting out 129, and you have this computer system, it has all the information that you own and everything, and that's kind of what happened. So now we come forward where Trump gets reelected here. We have the information on the Biden laptop, and the Biden laptop now has all of the emails and everything connected to it. They also have information on Hillary's lost emails, supposedly in Russia, but sitting in a safe in Washington, D.C. And so Trump is now able to work. He's put together a really great team. You can't beat the Department of Justice and the team together, Patel, Bondi, and Gabbard. They are probably the best you'd ever find anywhere. The problem is they still have residue from the old administration working at lower levels. So they're still really strapped on resources on getting a lot of this work done, but they are very busy. And you have contracts out by the Cartel de Sol to assassinate Vance, Bondi, and Patel. Those contracts are out. You also have the contract out on Trump that is more of a religious contract. And all of that has been discovered by the intel from Palantir. Okay, now, Palantir, the government doesn't have direct access to all this information. This information is held by Palantir, and under contract, they're a service to the federal government. So the information is not totally in the hands of the federal government. Now, Alex Karp, who's the CEO of Palantir, is also a friend of Larry Fink of BlackRock, and he's given talks at the World Economic Forum and everything like that. So you have that going on. Now, recently you had Trump come out and say, Zelensky, you got to have a peace deal by Thanksgiving, which is actually, I think, the 27th. Wasn't it the 27th? Thanksgiving. And so Zelensky was threatened that Trump was going to expose all of this information having to do with European aristocrats also having corruption in the Ukraine. And some of this deals with weaponry. A lot of it deals with biowarfare labs. Before the war, there were 20 biowarfare labs in the Ukraine, and there's now 2. One for sure, I think there are 2, but one for sure. And the things that were going on with basically trying to control the oil, Russian oil going to the European Union is where most of this goes about. And Burisma was just probably 5% of what's going on. So you can imagine the corruption is. There was a lady by the name of Valerie Jarrett. Everybody know who Valerie Jarrett is? Okay, Valerie Jarrett worked in the State Department under Hillary, but her background is intelligence, and she put together a thing to go to create a committee with the ambassador and the Ukrainians to fight anti-corruption. And it was funded by Soros and a few others. And actually what it was doing is trying to do a cover-up of things that were uncovered by an anti-corruption team. So it's an anti-corruption team hushing up an anti-corruption. And she was behind this. It's also said that she's the one who used a lot of the auto pen signing for the President Biden. And that's why those pardons are up. Okay, so now we come forward. President Trump's in. Just one of the many things he's tackling is the drug cartel. But also there's this other thing going on election integrity. Okay, you all have heard about that. So there's a CIA agent by the name of Gary Bernstein. He's retired now, but he worked out of Bolivia. And he was the head of all South American CIA activity. He was an unbelievable guy. He basically dug up information in Afghanistan, Nepal, the Japanese bombing in the train line that occurred. He's one that uncovered all of that, and he heads up the team. Very well-rewarded fellow in the CIA. He's received the highest recognition for CIA agent. His partner was a guy by the name of Martin Prodil. And they worked together for 3 years to look at voter integrity, because the software for the schematic, I can't remember, Sierra and Dominion, all came out of Venezuela. Okay, now, according to Gary Bernstein, there were 50 planes a day flying drugs in and out of Bolivia. The thing that they tracked was the fact that Hamas, there's activity with the Iranian Republican Guard, China, Russia, and some very elite, very well-off Venezuelans all working in this together. So it's not just Chinese money's in it. So they set the alarm on what's happening with the software that comes out for the voting machines, which is all generated and associated with Venezuela. Okay, so the drug issue is really a distraction side issue of what's really being investigated in Venezuela. The other things that they found out, now Marco Rubio, Trump set sanctions against Venezuelan oil, and Chevron had a contract to do an offshore drilling rig operation. That got put on hold, and Chevron has been backtracking a little bit, but when the sanctions were put on, it put a real hard economic pressure on Cuba, because Cuba took all of the oil from Venezuela. And the thing that is being attacked by this happening is Cuba has one of the most advanced intel spy operations in South America. Okay, every part of South America has a Cuban spy in it, and very sophisticated. You don't think of them as a third world. It's amazing. And they're coordinating with the cartels, they're coordinating with the Islamists out of Iran. They have training where young men come in, they come into Venezuela, they get orientation, basic training, they sent off to Iran, they get ISIS training, and then they come back to Venezuela. Okay, so that's some of the thing. They work for the drug cartels. The other thing is you have a lot of intel on the ground that is paid informants in almost every South American country, especially in Venezuela and Colombia. Now, there's an element of the Titan system that is mobile, and it can be packed in about a quarter of a shipping container, a big shipping tank, put on the back of a truck. Trump asked Petro of Venezuela if he could put that in his country, and the president said no. So Trump turned around and said, okay, since you said no, you're not getting a visa to go to the UN's open session. So he refused to give the president of Colombia, he refused to give him a visa. So that little skirmish went on. But in July of this year, Trump sent 8 ships down to Venezuela. And one of those ships had this module in it. And what they did is they tracked information that was brought to them by on-the-ground informants paid for by the State Department, but recruited by the CIA. And so what happened is those informants began to locate some interesting things, and what they, together, about 40% was the informants' information, 60% was the Titan information, clarifying and validating and making the connections and tracking. And so now you have a situation where what's going on inside of Venezuela? Well, in 2022 to 23, they found $312 billion laundered by the Chinese through Venezuela. And that's only a fraction of what was going on. The other thing the way this works, it's called the quantum financial services. Now, the quantum financial services is one of the best ways to launder money because you can't detect it without using artificial intelligence. And the way it works, just an example, you want to transfer $1 million into the United States. So what you do is you turn it into 250,000 $4 transactions. You run those transactions through 300 non-government organizations, NGOs, and you set up a website that looks like it's a subscription website, and these NGOs then send these transactions to the website, and it appears as though they're subscribing to a subscription, and of course it goes right into a bank account, and it's all happily assembled and makes certain people happy from there on. So that's kind of how the quantum financial, and you can't put that together going through it. It really takes an artificial intelligence agent software agent to run through and catch that. And that's what they found. The other thing they found was a biowarfare lab. Okay, many of you remember when, I think it was in August, they got a 35-year-old Chinese lady coming into the country with a vial of fungus. That fungus was modified so that it would not be wiped out by fungicide. And it was designed to attack wheat, soybeans, and rice. Interesting enough, the things that we're competing with for China working with. Anyway, that was what was in the vial, and I think she was connected with the University of Michigan, out of Kalamazoo, if I'm not mistaken. Is that what it was? Yeah, my validation is right here. Okay. If I'm wrong, it's your fault. Okay, and so now the other thing we have is a synthetic DNA lab. Synthetic DNA is interesting. They found DNA that could be modified in the food chain, and the DNA worked very much like the M protein in COVID shot. Only this protein linked onto certain chromosomes, but it also attacked glands that generate hormone in the human body. So it affects hormone generation, it modifies that hormone, and can also affect the body's resistance system. So that was found. The third thing, I might be on the fourth thing, was the trauma acoustics. Now, I've had a little bit of experience in that, and it's kind of interesting what you can do with acoustics. But you remember about 30 years ago, they had the embassy in Cuba, the U.S. embassy in Cuba and Russia, people were getting sick, right? So what they found out was it was trauma acoustics doing it. And they run it at about 700 hertz, and I forget how many decibels, it's about 80 decibels, and it causes the eyeballs to shake. It's a resonant frequency, so you can't focus. The other thing it does, it attacks the inner ear. So the inner ear, you get dizzy, nauseated, and some of the effects of that became permanent. People were really damaged with it. And that was using this trauma acoustic technology. The other side of that is they increase the frequency, and they can use that technology to break up a riot, break up a crowd. So you wonder if January 6th was so bad, why didn't they use it, right? Because you hit the sound wave, and people can't stand it, and they spread out, and they. The other thing they use it is for the Somali pirates and everything that are attacking oil ships. They aim it at it, and they are able to defend it without killing anybody. So that sounds all pretty neat, but the dangerous part of it is we have a thing called nanoparticles in our blood, okay? Nanoparticles got in your blood by two sources, pretty dominant sources. One's called the COVID shot. I have all the information on the Moderna, so that one I know very well on the patent and everything. They were very much aware of nanoparticles that don't get filtered out by the kidneys and all that. They're in the blood. And the other source of it is drinking out of plastic containers. You get nanoparticles. And so the average human right now in America has a teaspoon to a tablespoon of nanoparticles in their blood. Okay, these particles are interesting. They can be manipulated using high frequency sound waves because they have a resonant frequency themselves. It's a little bit dependent upon the viscosity of the blood on how fast it happens, but when you hit it with a sound wave, especially in things like corpuscles, it'll collect in one way, and that collection begins to mat, and what you have is the seeding of a blood clot. So, excuse me a second. So you have the seeding of a blood clot. Now, this research is going on right now, so it's not, the outcome isn't totally determined, but I had a doctor basically send me the information on it, and he's involved with some of the research on it. So that's one of the potentials of being able to kill somebody remotely without anybody knowing why. And you remember the Chinese put out Unrestricted Warfare, the book Unrestricted Warfare, written by the generals from China. And this activity fits into that. Then the other thing they discovered was a vault, what they call a black vault. And a black vault basically is using all the hacking tools, passwords to get into websites, and creating also artificial, like when I go to Facebook, there might be something interesting I click on, and I click on it, but they have duplicated that website page, and I think I'm still on the page, but I'm not. I'm on their site, and they take over from there and can basically give me messaging, kind of like advertisements, subliminal messaging, things like that. So that's what's going on in Venezuela with Trump's world. The Titan system, I'll go ahead and say it. Titan system has monitored communication with the Muslim Brotherhood. And the Muslim Brotherhood had immediately, Trump came out and classified them as a terrorist organization because of what they just monitored just probably 3 weeks ago. This all happened. The other thing that happened is our governor has been very quiet, and using the Titan system, they went in, pulled all of his emails, all of his phone records and everything, and they got him on possible criminal charges. And like I say, you know, the Department of Justice is so busy right now, it's hard to say where that's going, but they got the information.
There's so much corruption.
Excuse me?
There's so much corruption.
Yeah, and but you got to think positive. You know, at least this is happening. It isn't going to happen with anybody other than Trump. So, and this Department of Justice we have, they also got all of the information on Comey, Christopher Wray, even on Obama and Hillary. They have stacks of information. So the fact that the grand jury convicted Comey and he got off on a technicality, he got off on the fact that they said that the prosecutor wasn't a legitimate prosecutor. But the grand jury still indicted him. So whether that can be opened up, but they still have a whole bunch of cases supporting that. So if one doesn't work, they'll make the next one work. So that's kind of a little bit about what's going on. Venezuela is a lot more than just a South American country. It's in Caracas, things are pretty advanced. It's a modern city. They have extremely wealthy people. It's all drug-driven. In the voting machine, Maduro, I can never say his name right, president of Venezuela, he got in office by corrupting 39,000 voting machines. And that's pretty well known now that they were corrupted. And the other thing they have is they put those voting machines in 70 different countries. So they're able to get very liberal socialists into these countries using those voting machines. And we're not far behind. So what we need to do is stand behind any conservative that's in office. You know, I think we need to forget our little differences and think of the big picture, because if this technology, being the Titan system, falls back in the hands of the liberals, we're even in bigger trouble than we are now. We'll be shut up, no freedom of speech, a lot of things will happen. So we support all of our conservative people running for office, have less internal fighting on the GOP side than we've had, and try to unite and come together in the big picture. So with that sales pitch, I will take questions, I guess. Yeah.
All right. Yep, we're good. Hey, we're going to take questions.